Hello and welcome to Where You're Not Entertained. I'm Daniel,
I'm Rachel.
And I'm James.
and in this episode we are going to be covering Greyhound, which is an Apple TV Plus original, which will be first for us. We've never covered any other TV shows. I think this is the first movie that I'm aware of that has kind of been advertised, I guess, as a come watch it here. This was supposed to be released in theaters, so much of what we're seeing now is movies that were supposed to be released in theaters that are being released on streaming services because you can't go to the theater.
Yeah. Not as viable of an option right now. This one is like you said, the new Tom Hanks movie. It's based off of a novel called The Good Shepherd, not to be confused with the Matt Damon flick a few years back.
No.
Right.
It's not the same.
But this was written by Tom Hanks as a screenplay, adapted into a screenplay by Hanks and starring him, but directed by Aaron Schneider.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I found this to be a very interesting film in the way it's done. It's short, and as far as I'll say as like plot goes, it's very simple. You have one simple story, you follow it through the whole way. There's not a lot of like trying to teach you a moral or give you any kind of nuance. It's straightforward, it's easy. I loved that about it, and I thought the production was great.
Yeah, agreed. It was a weird movie. There wasn't a whole lot of like making you care about any of the characters, but it was so incredibly thrilling that I when it was over, I was like, wow, that was an hour and a half long.
Right.
Like I thought maybe 50 minutes to an hour. I was just totally in the whole time, and it captured me in a way that I usually would expect me to want more setup than it gave me. But we jumped into it, man, and it was enough. And maybe it's Hank's acting, but yeah, I was sold the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing is that so you have the first scene, which is I don't know, 5 minutes or so, which is kind of set up, basically explaining that Tom Hanks's character he's been in the Navy for a while, and Pearl Harbor has just happened, and because of that, he now has his own boat. So he is now the captain, and
his first command.
Yeah, and that's you get that bit of information in a short period of time, and then you are on the boat.
Yeah,
there's no fooling around with this, and it is a very point to point storyline. And what I mean by that is you have you have the start of the dilemma, I guess, the problem, and then you have a destination.
Yeah.
And that is essentially the finish line. Not only is the finish line for the storyline, is the finish line for the movie.
Yeah, there's no breaks, no breathers. It starts out pretty fast, and then it just carries that pace all the way till probably the last 5 minutes, which is when you get your little bit of wrap up. There's really no character development, not any deep background other than finding out it's his first captain post. That's it. That's all the information you get about any of these characters, but you still get really invested.
Yeah.
It was definitely a tense kind of movie all the way through, which I thought was great, especially on a story that's, I wouldn't call it dialogue heavy because what they talk is mostly technical terms. It's Navy explanations.
Navy jargon for,
right.
Yeah, whatever they're having to deal with.
There's no chit-chat. There's no any of that. And I think as far as, with this is I think it's a big budget film. It had a $50 million budget. And
that's pretty big, yeah.
Aside from Tom Hanks, there's not any other giant names. There are big names.
Yeah, Elizabeth Shue, but she, like you said, she was in it for less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so it's not there's not a whole lot to it necessarily, but what you do get are these incredible
You have
sweeping
Stephen Graham
shots.
as well, by the way.
Yes. But it just it's so cool looking at these boats and the explosions and everything that goes along with it. Top notch, I thought.
I think so. One of the things that I really liked about the movie was the pace. So you get when everything kind of starts, right? It is the captain who is kind of waking up and getting ready for the day, knows he's going to have to deal with some stuff during the day, and he is awake and on his feet for the entirety of this movie, which is the movie itself, hour and a half, but it spans like a
36 hours.
36 hour. Okay, there we go.
The no man's land in the middle of the Atlantic where they can't get air support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's nonstop, just like his dedication to doing his job and keeping his men alive and the ships that he's escorting safe.
Yeah.
Which is something that I really appreciated about it.
And probably some of the nervousness being his first command and his first time across the Atlantic.
Yeah, absolutely. How could you not be?
And that's exemplified by the way that the crew stares at him all the time, the way they wouldn't if he had been sailing with them for years.
Right.
And they did seem like there were moments when they didn't have full confidence in what he was saying. They still followed orders, but there would always be that pause of, are you sure? Or are you serious? This is what we're going to do.
Right.
But I think as far as the first time captain, he definitely got a natural talent for that.
Yeah, man, he can maneuver a boat.
Yes, he could.
Yes, he could. Yeah, for sure.
That thing, well, that was what got me about this. I was shocked by the end of it that there was so little character development to hook me, because one of the fears going into watching any naval movie is how they shoot it, because naval engagements can be kind of boring if it's not done right. And having the camera follow the captain pretty much the entire movie, there's almost a handful of shots where the camera's not following him, and he probably just walked out of the room. But it keeps this kind of engagement, and you see what he's seeing and why he's making the decisions that he's making. And even if it is in kind of naval jargon, and I don't know which one's port or starboard off the top of my head while I'm watching the movie. Like it still is able to convey what's happening in a really great cinematic way. And there were some moments where I was like totally gripped what is going to happen. And the kind of dread that they put into these, around these U-boats. It's just done really, really well, and it keeps you engaged the whole time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that, so there's movies, in my opinion, that are kind of in the same genre that deliver differently. They're longer movies. They are more character driven, but they're really good movies. Like U-571 is an example. It's a U-boat movie as opposed to being on a destroyer, but it's a completely different type of movie. This is just a get started and sprint as fast as you can and cram as much action as you can into it without being overly actiony, right? There's not like a bunch of stupid explosions that wouldn't happen or crazy CGI. I mean, it feels realistic.
Yeah. I would almost put it in a category with kind of Dunkirk. It has this very realistic, gray skies, color palette to it. and it's focused on a single objective and completing that objective and how hard that is.
Yes.
It doesn't have the montage cast that Dunkirk did, but I don't know. I could see watching these back to back.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, my boat film experience extends to like Down Periscope and Captain Phillips, which
or
is
Hunt
a
for
little
Red
more
October.
similar.
You've probably seen that, right?
No.
Yeah, you've seen Hunt for Red October.
Oh, have I? Okay.
Yeah. It didn't leave an impression, apparently.
Forgot about that one.
It's one of the Jack Ryan movies.
Yeah.
Right. But so I found this very interesting, and it's got a neat mix of things are happening quickly, but the action doesn't feel fast. Like when you think of maybe Mission Impossible films and you're watching Tom Cruise run around, and it always feels fast and you feel tense and out of breath and nervous for him. This didn't have any of that. The captain's always calm and collected. You can tell he's pent up, but he never feels panicked or anything like that. And the calls he's making are very level.
Right.
And I definitely appreciate that. I like that it's so compelling without being in your face about it.
Yeah, it's super methodical, I guess.
Yes.
As you would have to be steering these giant boats around in the ocean.
Yeah, very.
Because nothing happens quickly. Like, you don't say, turn the wheel, and then the boat just takes off in whatever direction you turn it.
Right.
You turn the wheel, and then you wait.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that it was Tom Hanks that decided to take this project on. I think he's one of those few actors that can genuinely carry this sort of one-man story.
Yeah, and he didn't I guess he didn't have to do a lot of acting per se. Like, he had to act, obviously, but it wasn't like he had to be a completely different person.
It all felt genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, it kind of reminds me of Locke, where you have your central character and that's all you follow.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Tom Hanks is one of those actors that since Castaway, I've been convinced that he can carry an entire movie. Especially if it's mostly him, then I'm pretty confident I'll like the movie.
Yeah, he didn't even have to go crazy on the beach in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I still would have watched it. To be honest, I was a little surprised going into it because, once I heard about it, I was sold, but I didn't see the trailer. So I didn't know exactly what to expect, whether this was going to be in the Atlantic or the Pacific, or if it would take place over the course of the war or anything like that. I went in pretty much blind. And for it to be just kind of this, quote unquote, nonstop thrill ride that of one mission, shooting across the Atlantic to avoid German U-boats, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much. I didn't know where the story was going to go.
Yeah.
And so it kept it surprising, even though it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, that was the same way. I didn't watch any trailers or anything like that.
Right. There's just kind of this confidence that because it's Tom Hanks, it's not going to be bad. It might not be great, but it's Tom Hanks, so it's not going to be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they're Saving Private Ryan. He's going to be great in a World War II movie.
It's going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
He did Band of Brothers.
Exactly.
It's absolutely in his wheelhouse. And I made the comparison, which I mean in the nicest way, that Tom Hanks is kind of like that box of plain crackers you have. It is absolutely a staple because it is never going to upset you. It's never going to go off. It's just steady, constant.
Mm-hmm. It's comforting.
Exactly.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is comfort food.
He always makes you feel comforted. And
he's like a glass of cocoa.
He's like a box of chocolates.
No, that's surprising.
There it is.
I had to do it. Anyway.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah. No, to me, it was an interesting subject matter. I mean, I got the World War II gist
Yeah.
and being a captain, and then Tom Hanks, and I was like, okay, I'll watch that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of all you had to sell me on. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
plus free 7-day trial of Apple TV. Sure, I'll do it.
yeah, sure, why not?
But I think that pretty much wraps it up for the basic coverage. Anything else you guys want to hit before we get into our favorite scenes?
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. Okay,
Stephen Graham.
Yeah, he's the
Stephen
dude from
Graham.
from Snatch.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird to see him with an American accent.
Yeah, Jersey accent too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But no, he did a really good job in this. I enjoyed his character in this, being the smart guy, right?
he was great as
he was
as
the
an
one.
XO.
Yeah, having to do all the math and plot the courses and
Mm-hmm.
making the phone calls about getting the planes in and all that stuff. He seemed like a very good and reliable right hand man.
Yep.
Which is what he was and what you would want in this kind of situation. But yeah, I really enjoyed his character. As much character development as you get in this.
Right.
They made you feel bad when what was he? Was he a
mess
bosun's
officer?
mate? The mess officer, yes.
Or maybe it's
Yeah.
not officer, but the mess person.
Cleveland.
Yes. Cleveland, yes. Feel real bad about that because he was obviously concerned about the captain and was trying to get him food and make him eat and all these things. And then they get into battle and he has to stop doing that to load ammo.
Right.
And
Everybody's got a job.
Exactly. And in the course of that duty, he gets essentially blown up by one of the guns on top of one of the U-boats.
Yeah.
Which kills 3 people, which, in the entire conflict that they had in that short amount of time, they're very fortunate that it wasn't much worse. Wasn't much worse. Because, I mean, they were taking out boats with a bunch of people on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
They were deadly.
Yeah, very much so. It's especially being hunted by things you can't see, and there were numerous U-boats after them, getting, just hanging out in the most secluded spot of the ocean. So thanks for that, guys.
They were deadly. Yeah, they were dangerous, and man, they were terrifying in this. I love the way that they pumped out the propaganda to scare the soldiers.
Yeah.
And you had all our sailors, and then you had just the way that they would dip below and then come back up, and you never knew where they were. And it was this game of cat and mouse the whole time. Loved it. Yeah.
I think they did a really good job of using that to play to the suspense and the action about what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you want them to, obviously you want the boats to survive, but at the same time, you're like, they can't all make it.
Right.
Sure.
So which one is Greyhound going to take it to?
Yeah. I mean, it's a naval engagement. It can very well end in a tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that was really all I had.
All right. Well, then this time for favorite scenes, I'm going to go first. If that's okay with you guys.
Sure. Self-promoter, go for it.
All right. My favorite scene was near the end when after they've been hit, when the 2 U-boats are coming to hunt them down. Mm-hmm. And the wolf sends off the propaganda message saying the wolf is very hungry, and then suddenly they start turning, 2 U-boats start coming in directly at them. And the way he has to dodge the missiles to turn into the path of the torpedo, to avoid it, because they're trying to crossfire him basically. And it was so tense, and the way that they showed it, it was something that I could see being pretty boring in if it was done wrong, or at least not have the same intensity and same like just gripping seat moment there. But it was done perfectly, and the way that it bounced off at the end, the second one did
Yeah.
it. Oh,
Like, whoo!
exactly. I literally let out a breath whenever that happened. So that was definitely my favorite scene, but it also kind of encapsulates my opinion on the whole movie. That is why you watch this movie, is for scenes like that.
Yes, definitely so.
Yep.
It's a good choice.
Thank you. Well, what about you, Rachel?
You know, I feel like I say this too frequently. I don't have a favorite scene necessarily because this movie, again, it just feels like one story. They do such a smooth job of following it through. It's hard to just pick a start and end point of something. But so I, much like you, my favorite moment would have to be when the U-boats are taunting them.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was great, and it added such a good atmosphere. And it, obviously you want them to beat the Nazis anyway, but it really adds to that vigor of, crush them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's what I'm gonna say is
you're just
my
gonna
favorite
hop on my
bit.
radio and talk crap to me.
Yeah.
And all my people.
Yeah, you and your
Ugh.
fancy painted U-boat.
Hiding under the water. Yeah.
Yeah, big scary man hiding under there. But
Well, I think that I think that's a good choice too, because it helps sell the audience to a degree. Because when he takes out the first one with the depth charges, the whole boat's cheering or the whole ship's cheering. Sorry, he ends up saying that was a lot of souls lost. The first thing he's thinking about is the human casualties of it.
Right.
Yep.
To make them out to be much darker and meaner than the Allied forces in the movie made it a lot more acceptable for him to go not really on a rampage, but to orchestrate the destruction of 5 different ships out there.
Yeah.
With a lot of people on board.
Do what they needed to do.
Right.
To save the others.
He wasn't happy about it, but for the audience, it clearly made them the bad guys.
Right. Yes, it did.
I do have to throw out there real quick, when they first showed that U-boat with the skull on the side, it made me think of the sketch "Are We the Baddies?" But anyway. What about you, Daniel?
So maybe low-hanging fruit, but my favorite scene was actually at the very end, and that is when he gives up the helm and is basically going to rest, because they're breaking off and they're going to England to the shipyard, and they're out of danger essentially.
And the British destroyer took over the convoy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Takes off his little bloody slippers.
Takes off his bloody slippers. Well, but on his way down, as soon as they start breaking from the rest of the convoy, you hear the cheers, and it is the giant boat ship that is got hundreds of people on it.
Yeah.
Like just hundreds of people that are just cheering, like, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Greyhound.
Yeah, you kept us alive.
Right.
And I mean, they did. And so that's kind of the payoff, right? Because he knows he's doing the right thing, and he knows he's protecting ships and cargo and all this, and he's keeping his people alive. But when you see a ship like that that's got hundreds of people on it, I mean, if that had been one of the boats that they had blown up, there's no way you could have gotten all those people to safety.
Not even half.
Yeah. So, losing a bunch of cargo and equipment and things like that, it sucks. But losing hundreds of people it's a problem.
Definitely.
Right.
So you get that payoff that kind of shows you, what the stakes really were, and he knows that he did a good job, and he actually gets to go rest.
Yeah, that was a really good part. I also think we sort of need a special mention, much like the torpedo just skidding off the side of the boat. How about when they avoid the cargo ship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
That was another just super like, oh no, kind of hold your breath moment. And there's the sparks and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So,
Cut
Yeah, there
that
were
one
some
a little
tense-
close.
There were some tense ones, yeah.
definitely.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we're all in agreement. We loved Greyhound, the 2020 Tom Hanks flick.
Yes.
Yep.
Hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of this. If you did, please go online, like, and subscribe, and join us next time on Were You Not Entertained?